I finally finished the show, Baby Reindeer, and let me tell you, I will honestly be thinking about the show for a very long time. I haven't quite experienced anything like this before. And I will say, I think it's one of Netflix's best shows in a long time. I can't stop thinking about it. Let me begin by saying this Netflix show is based on a true story, and the guy in the show is also the writer and also the real life man these events happen to. It makes it all the more shocking and harrowing as it all unfolds in front of our eyes, knowing that Richard Gadd is having to relive his trauma a second time. It's a lot. The show deals with complex issues that you yourself begin to debate how you would react in these circumstances. I'll try not to reveal too much because I want you all to watch it. There will be some minor spoilers, and I don't think there'll be any major spoilers, but a few minor ones. So if you haven't watched, go watch and then come watch this video. So the show itself follows Donnie, played by Richard Gadd. He's an aspiring stand-up comedian, and he also is a bartender in Camden. His entire life is turned on its head the minute a woman named Martha, played by Jessica Gunning, walks into his pub. She seems really upset. She's quite distressed. Something's troubling her. And Donnie, appears to us to be an empath. He takes pity on her and he buys her a tea because she says she can't afford one, even though she states she's a lawyer but has no money to buy anything. So he gives her a cup of tea. And I think in that moment, Donnie relates to Martha. They're both beaten down by life. At this point, we don't really know either of their experiences, but based on how they're reacting in this situation, it seems like they're both very troubled. After the initial meeting, Martha begins showing up regularly at the pub. This is where the stalking begins. The two begin to form some kind of acquaintanceship. Like, Donnie is humoring her a lot, but you can't tell if there's actually ever going to be a friendship. But yeah, it does appear to be one-sided, and the breaking point is when Donnie takes Martha out to grab coffee, and she has just a full breakdown in front of him. At this point, she's become increasingly flirtatious towards Donnie. She keeps calling him Baby Reindeer, and then I think even... It's all very strange. After the outburst in the coffee shop, Donnie doesn't go home. Instead, he leaves us screaming at our screen because he decides to follow Martha home because he wants to see what's going on with her. So he follows her home. He realizes she lives in a council estate, and then he peeps in her window, and her house is quite... very dirty. She's living in squalor, pretty much. But the worst thing happens, Martha catches him. It's so annoying. And that's when everything begins to get worse and worse for Donnie, and Martha views it as confirmation that he loves her, and then she thinks they're in a relationship together. Now, so much happens in between. Martha becomes very jealous of people in Donnie's life. She starts to stalk everything, including his ex, where he lives, the girl he's currently seeing. So she becomes quite ruthless. She becomes cunning towards Donnie. She wants to ruin his life, essentially, but also be with him. She bombards him with emails every day, multiple times a day, incessantly stalking him, even going to his comedy shows and speaking out. And she's got a very distinct laugh, so you can hear her in the crowd, and it's quite haunting when we get his POV and then we just hear that laugh. Ugh. And it's also cool in real life, there is some real footage. I think it's one of his shows where you can hear the real Martha's laugh. It sends chills down my spine. While watching these early episodes, we can't quite seem to understand as a viewer why Donnie is reacting the way he's reacting, because all you want is for him to just go to the police or file a restraining order, do anything to just get rid of Martha, but he doesn't do that. Instead, the situation just keeps getting worse because she's almost enabled by him. This all comes to a head, though, one evening while he's trying to get away from her on the canal in Camden, and she corners him and does something truly sinister. This ultimately leads us into Donnie's flashback of his life before Martha and a tragic event that happened to him. This revelation makes his response to trauma so much more understandable. He has encountered some of the worst people imaginable in his life who've truly done some damage to him and truly done some really deranged and disturbing things. And we realize all Donnie really wants is to be accepted, to be loved, for someone to, heal his insecurities and just appreciated and told he's doing a good job. The show successfully subverts people's expectations and changes the way people view trauma and victims' reactions to traumatic events. It was easy for us to judge in the first few episodes how he was reacting, but it also isn't our place to judge at all. And then as things unfold and we learn more about him, then we sympathize and we're empathetic and we're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. But the show successfully is almost a wake-up call to all of us watching, and telling us, don't judge. You shouldn't judge anyone's trauma. It does unfold in such a respectful way while also being incredibly shocking and upsetting. I must add though, without revealing too much, there is a heartbreaking scene with Donnie and his parents. At this point, Donnie's mum has always been very kind and caring and loving towards him, but Donnie's dad is very cold, very Scottish father. Not to say they're all like that. My dad's lovely and he's Scottish. But Donnie's dad seems a bit more stern, and they're all sat down having a heart-to-heart, and Donnie's opening up about what's been going on in his life, and Donnie's dad says something that is so shocking and upsetting and just illuminating, knowing that trauma can happen to anyone, even the people who don't seem to be wearing their trauma. It honestly is, I think, the best scene in the entire show. And I think about that moment a lot. When it happened, I instantly just sobbed. I couldn't stop crying. The final scene of the show does have many people divided, though, and I do understand. But I think it leaves off on quite an ambiguous note, but also it says so much at the same time. I don't want to spoil anything, but we do come full circle in the show. And in the final moments, we begin to kind of understand Martha a bit more, while also realizing there are no winners or losers in the show at all. It's just broken people who have experienced the worst the world has to offer, which is really just heartbreaking. As I said earlier, the show is based on Richard Gadd's real experiences. The extent of how much of the show is taken from fact, I'm not really sure. I do know, like I said, there were some TikToks of his real life comedy, and you could hear the real Martha's laugh in the background. Some people have pulled who they believe the real Martha is, their Twitter page, and you can see messages to Richard Gadd, which are incessant. But that's all people really know. I know Richard Gadd has tried to be quite respectful and not detail too much or lead people to try and guess who the people are. But like I said, we do know there was a real Martha who made Richard's life hell, and the trauma that was inflicted was also pulled from his own experiences. I really suggest watching some interviews. I think there was an interview with Richard Gadd and Jessica Gunning on the British TV show Lorraine, and it was excellent. I can't imagine Richard Gadd having to relive these moments again on screen. He does such a phenomenal job. It's really heartbreaking, and he's such an incredible actor. And Jessica Gunning is astounding in the show. Honestly, an incredible performance by a hugely underrated actress. She is insane. I feel like we'll see her pop up more and more now because she's incredible. It's also been discussed that the show is going to be selected for the awards cycle. I don't know when that'll be, probably next year, which it absolutely should. I think it'll sweep at the Emmys, absolutely. It is honestly just one of the best shows I've watched in a long time. I don't remember the last time a show made me feel like this. That's for sure. Let me know in the comments if you've watched the show, if you plan on watching the show. And when you do, drop a comment, let me know your review, and let me know if you loved it as much as I do. Maybe I just love it too much. Who knows? That's the thing. I do tend to love things too much. But anyway, I'll see you in the next video.